welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. In today's video, we are going to be starting a new series that I'm going to be calling Budgeting for Beginners, where monthly I'm going to be talking about different ways to help you start your budgeting journey. I plan on helping you along your budgeting journey with giving some tips and tricks to help you be successful while budgeting. And as you probably guessed it, today's video will be on how to start a budget or how to start budgeting. The first step is probably going to be pretty daunting and eye-opening, especially if you haven't been already tracking your expenses, which you probably haven't if this is your first time making a budget. You're gonna go through the last 3 months of your expenses and write them all down. First, you're gonna go through your expenses that are the same every single month, that they aren't going to change, they're the same. Some good examples of these would be like your rent or mortgage payment and your phone bill, your internet, your car payment, or sometimes even your credit card payment minimums. And these kind of expenses I call fixed expenses because they are fixed. Next, we will go through the expenses that you impact, and those I like to call variable expenses, and they're going to change based on how you spend money, but from month to month they're going to be different, even if you set the budget on the same amount every single month. And these you might need to create categories because it's unlikely that it's going to be just the expense. Some good examples of these would be groceries, eating out, gas for your car, things like that, where you might say, hey, I'm gonna spend this much each month on this expense, but who knows, you might need to fill up your gas one extra time. You might have bought $5 extra for groceries, things like that. So they're variable, they're going to change every month. They're probably not even gonna be the same as what you budgeted for, but you wanna get as close as possible to that. So these, like I said, I call these variable expenses, and these are gonna take a little more time to find because you're gonna have to put them in separate categories and all of that. And this category, or I guess not category, these type of expenses are probably the ones that are going to be the most eye-opening, the ones that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I've been spending that much on whatever. So just be prepared. Like for instance, the first time I made my first budget in the beginning of early college, that I was living with my parents, had no rent, and I was confused as to why do I not have any money in savings? Like, why can't I save money? And I found out that approximately 2/3 of my income for the month was going to eating out, and shopping for just random stuff was not very far behind it. So just expect like that kind of thing that you're probably not going to be spot on, or you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is why I haven't been saving money. So, but don't worry, me giving you these tips is gonna help you hopefully get that tamed, so that way you do not have to worry about, oh my gosh, I'm spending so much money on whatever and I didn't even know it, because you're gonna be tracking your expenses moving forward. One misconception about budgeting is that budgeting is all about restriction. That, oh my gosh, I can't spend money because it's not in the budget. Blah, blah, blah. The goal with budgeting is to get your budget as close as possible to what you're planning on spending. If you say that you're gonna spend an extra $100 like on groceries and then you don't, that doesn't change anything, because now you have an extra $100, or those $100 could have went to eating out or like something more fun. I mean, really anything. So you just want to get it as close as possible without just saying, hey, I'm gonna have this giant category, because if I have this giant category, then I can just spend whatever I want, and like it doesn't matter, I'll never go over budget, stuff like that. I know when I first started my budgeting journey that I liked to over budget every category, and that was because I didn't want to go over budget, and obviously nobody wants to go over budget. It's not fun, but occasionally it does happen, and when you go over budget you realize, hey, I gotta move some things around, or I gotta learn from my mistakes, stuff like that. So with that, like I said, you wanna be as accurate as possible, but budgeting is all about, hey, I can spend money on whatever I want because it is in the budget. So you don't wanna like restrict yourself and say, hey, I'm never gonna eat out this month, because for most of us, that's unrealistic, and you wanna be realistic with your budget. You don't wanna just go into fairy tale land and be like, hey, I wish that I could pay off this loan this month, or I wish I could, you know. We want to be realistic, and the point of the budget is to allow you to spend money. So like if you are saying, hey, I'm not tracking my expenses, you might be spending a lot more money on groceries than you need to, and you really want to go out with your friends, but you can't because the money's in groceries. And now with you tracking everything, you're gonna be able to hopefully spend less money on groceries, because you're not gonna need that extra money in groceries, and you're gonna be able to spend it going out with your friends and things like that. Or maybe you wanna eat at home more and you're like, hey, I don't have money for groceries, and it's because you've been going out with your friends often. So just things like that. This is gonna allow you to, with the categories that you have, you're gonna be willing or able to spend money in those categories, and then whatever's left you can put towards whatever your financial goal is, whether it's paying off debt, saving money for an emergency fund, or buying a house, or anything. So then, now that you have all of your variable expenses, we're gonna kind of get to the point of starting the budget. Now, you're gonna look for outliers that you had, specifically more with the variable expenses. So like for instance, I'm posting this shortly before July 4th. So like if it was July 4th or another holiday, you might have spent extra money on alcohol, or just, you know, doing fun things that you do for the holidays. And so that, or it could be like you going and driving across the state, so your gas expense is going to be higher, or something not so fun. It could be you had to get a car repair, so things like that. We're trying to make a general budget to get you along. We're not trying to pay attention to every little thing that might pop up, so just get rid of those outliers, and we're going to work towards the general everyday or every month budget, so that way moving forward you can just do a little tweaks here and there to make it fit whatever month it is. So the first step is you're going to write down your income. You're going to figure out how much you make per month, and then every expense after that is going to be reduced from that income. So if you are salary or have a fixed income, this is going to be super easy for you. But if this is hourly, it might be a little more difficult. You can do it two ways. You can do it the least amount of money you'd make for the month, or like the average month. But what I like to do personally is the least amount that you could possibly make, because then you're never running into, oh, I have to cut this expense and cut this expense, because you're never gonna make less than that. But I understand that not everybody's income and expenses allow for that. So just know that if you are in that situation and you budget based off of your average, that it's possible that throughout the month you might have to reduce some expenses. You might need to buy less in groceries, you might need to not go out that much that month. So just stuff like that. So next you're going to do the fixed expenses, and these expenses are most likely your necessities, or at least expenses that you can't get rid of, at least in the very current time. So that's why we're starting with them, because you can't really change them. Then you're gonna move to your variable expenses, and you're gonna start with your necessities. So the things that you need to survive, like groceries and your utilities for your home. So like stuff like that. And then after you get done with those, then you're gonna move on to debts, like specifically your minimums. And then after that, we have leftover money. Whatever you have left, you can put towards whatever your goals are. So whether you want to save for something big, you want to save just an emergency fund, you want to have fun with your friends, like all of that kind of thing. But just remember, the extra money At this moment, you aren't saving anything, so you can do whatever you want with it, whether it's saving or spending. You do whatever you want with it. And at this point, if you don't have any money left over or you're negative, just know that the only way to fix this issue would be to increase your income. So that would be to either work more hours at your job, if that allows, to get a second job, or to sell your goods or services. And lastly, one of the important things to remember is that your budget shouldn't be the same every single month, because every single month you don't live the exact same way. So like I said, we're doing a general budget to get us kind of on like the grand scheme of like what's happening, get us in the right direction. And then you can tweak it a little bit, say, hey, I'm going out of town this day, so I'm probably gonna need more money in my entertainment and gas. So things like that, so that way it'll help you, that you can just kind of a variation. But the most important thing to learn from this is to track your expenses. You don't necessarily need to have it written down, but you do need to have it in your brain to know where your money is going, where it's coming and where it's going. And you don't need to write it down, but it is probably going to be more accurate if you do have a spot to either write it down or to type it into your phone, somewhere that you can look at it and track it visually, because our brains are not the best at remembering things. But like in your brain, you could have said, hey, I spent $50 last week on groceries and that was all. But in reality, you forgot, hey, I went to the grocery store to pick up that small item that was $5, and now you're $5 off, which isn't like the end of the world, but if that's gonna make or break you saving any money, that's important. Just know that with this, you will probably spend a couple of months kind of tweaking it to try to figure out how to make it work best for you, because you have to understand that you're new to budgeting, and especially with you now tracking your budget, that you might end up with extra money because you are conscious of your spending, or you might end up having to spend more money and all of that, because maybe the outliers that you thought were outliers, we really weren't outliers. So it'll take probably 3 months for you to get like a solid budget of like, hey, I have a general idea, I can actually base my budget off of my actual budget. But yeah, like I said, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any more tips or tricks that you think that I forgot, make sure to leave them down below. And as always, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!